Despite the countless warnings that too much sun, even fake sun, is dangerous, people still love to tan, especially teenage girls. Statistically, it would seem there's an age where, or is there an age when girls are too young to get into that tanning bed? Well, many doctors think so. In fact, 3 states now have age limits on tanning. With me this morning is Dr. Robert Delavalli. He said I could say it either way. That's insured I'll screw it up here. He's involved in a study on tanning in young teens. Thank you for being here, Doctor.
My pleasure.
And Joseph Levy is the Vice President of Education for Executive Tans. And gentlemen, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
You know, I really dislike all these statistics and studies and so forth, but we'll start with you, Mr. Levy. You say that actually this study is doing a disservice. Not having tanning beds available to teens are doing a disservice to them. In what way?
Well, I won't say the study will. I'll say that the way that some people will purport the data that was collected very well, I think.
Okay.
The data actually, I think, support our position in that parental consent for teenagers, which has been the industry standard for years, that parents know that their teenagers are tanning in a salon, is working. That 96 to 98% of the salons in Colorado are practicing that according to the data. So I believe it supports what we're already doing.
And what's really at issue here? They want more stricter regulation or rules, Doctor?
Well, the World Health Organization came out in April with a statement advising all nations around the globe that adolescents, anyone under 18, really should not be going into a tanning booth. Now, in the U.S., there are actually 6 states now. When we did the study, there were 3 states that had age limits. Colorado does not have an age limit currently on what age you can be to go into a tanning booth. What we did during that study that we did a couple of years ago, which now comes out now, we studied the 3 states which had regulations. Those were Illinois, Wisconsin, and Texas. Illinois and Wisconsin have had age restrictions for many years, about a decade. Texas just recently enacted them when we did the study, and Texas had the lowest age limit of 13. Not surprisingly, we found that the states which had long-term regulations in place were following them fairly well, whereas Texas, the state which newly enacted regulations, was not following them as well as the other states. Colorado we studied to compare to states which have regulations in place, since Colorado doesn't have regulations.
To what end? To what end?
Well, we wanted to see if any tanning parlors had restrictions, even though they weren't required to, and we did find quite a few are requiring parents to come in Colorado.
Executive Tans being one of those.
Absolutely.
You have a policy. You also say, though, if these, I have to ask you, would you like to see him out of business? I mean, organizations like Executive Tans out of business,
Maybe
Doctor?
if you had asked me 5 years ago, when I had a much more black and white view of this issue, I think my perspective has included many more shades of gray over the past 5 years.
We don't like gray here on Good Day Color. Yes or no? Yes or no?
I would like to see an age restriction for tanning in the U.S. in all states.
All right.
The way they have it in France and New Brunswick, Canada.
Mr. Levy, you say that teens, if they don't have this available to them, are going to go out and bake themselves into a very unhealthy state.
Absolutely, and we've commissioned independent research that documents that as well, that if a teenager was not permitted to tan in a salon, more than 70% of them would tan more aggressively outdoors or would purchase home units, which would lead to higher sunburn incidence. So we know that, we already know also, we've researched this as well, that teenagers who tan in salons sunburn less often outdoors than teenagers who don't tan in salons. So we can be part of the solution in working with the teenagers, the parents, to help to promote sunburn prevention more effectively than merely promoting abstinence.
Well, here in the Mile High City, a mile closer to the sun, it's even more critical to talk about this. So
absolutely.
We'll take a break and continue this, and also some questions from our Fox Focus Group, too. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We'll talk about alternatives to spending time in tanning beds, too, and we'll hear, as I said, from our Fox Focus Group. This morning, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Don't forget to email us, too, if you have a thought on this. GoodDayColorado at fox31.com. It's 8:19, and we will be right back. Welcome back. It's 8:22. I'm Steve Kelly, and we're talking about tanning, fake baking, as they call it. Should there be an age limit for teens who want to do that? Well, we're back with Joseph Levy, who is the Executive Tans Director, and also Dr. Robert Delavalli. There, I said it that way, and I appreciate you both. Were you blindsided by this study?
No, not at all. I think it is a worthy topic. It deserves attention, but it deserves to have attention in a dispassionate and objective way.
Are you concerned about how these statistics, and statistics are interesting. Some say you can make them say whatever you like. You're concerned about how they're going to be used?
Well, I have a feeling that it will be attempted to be used in a political way, and to have the statistics spun in a way that really isn't supported by what the data say. The data say that parental consent is working. I think it was very clear that the salons, even in a state where it isn't required, Colorado, the salons are doing that because the industry self-imposes that standard.
You've got the issue of data and parental consent. But your concern, Dr. Della Valle, I would think is more just bottom line health. Are tanning beds unhealthy for kids?
Well, we definitely know that UV light will lead to skin cancer, or promote skin cancer, and we have an epidemic of skin cancer now. When these teenagers grow up and reach the age where skin cancer is likely, are they going to have twice as many skin cancers? We won't know until these teenagers are then 30 years older. So,
well, I was reading a stat that if you were exposed to the sun when you were young, very, very young age, you're less likely to get skin cancer. What do you say to that?
Well, the U.S. government and numerous studies have shown and classified UV light as a skin carcinogen. I think the main debate currently is whether or not increased vitamin D from sun exposure might be affecting other cancers.
That's scary, carcinogen.
And that would be where the nature of our disagreement would be, because the UV light can be called a carcinogen only in so much as the way we define carcinogen does not take into account the dosage required for a substance to be carcinogenic. I was involved in the hearings where UV was listed as a carcinogen, which ironically took place at the same time that saccharin was removed from the listing because the dosage required for saccharin, the artificial sweetener, to be carcinogenic was so massive that it was unrealistic, but it took the NutraSeek people 20 years to delist that. There is no dosage requirement. We believe, and all of the photobiology shows consensus, that sunburn incidence and intermittent sunburn incidence is the main factor related to UV. But just to make the blanket statement that UV is a carcinogen is more misleading than it is accurate.
Doctor, is it better to be in one of these controlled beds than out in the sun too long?
I don't think we really know.
Well,
but we do know that both of those exposures will increase your risk of getting
why do
skin
we
cancer.
want to get tans? We're going to go to our Fox Focus group. What is it about a tan anyway?
Well, I think people like the look of being tan. It makes you look sexy, it makes you look more appealing, more healthy. So there are UV light treatments which can make you tan, and there are non-UV light treatments. We feel that teenagers can certainly pursue the non-UV, non-carcinogenic means of getting a tan appearance. And then when they're adults, they can drink, they can smoke, they can tan, they can do all of those things because they have autonomous decision-making capacities at that point.
All right, let's go to our Fox Focus group. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is where we're at this morning. And Pamela Davis, what are people saying there this morning?
Good morning, Steve. Yes, we have a very active group, and they have lots of questions. Let's go to Larry first, and you have a question.
I do. Good morning. I've heard recently that avoidance of the sun is actually detrimental to health, and I'm wondering, first of all, which is better or worse, tanning beds or natural sun, and at what point is staying out of the sun detrimental, and when does it become beneficial?
How much sun can you have?
It all depends on your personal skin color and your risk factors for getting skin cancer. So if you've had skin cancer in the past, you have a family history of skin cancer, you have red hair, light skin, you have to be much more careful about going out in the sun here where we have intense sunlight 300 days of the year. If you have very dark skin, no history of skin cancer in your family, and you live someplace like Boston where there is no sunlight for the whole winter time, then you're going to have more of a problem getting your vitamin D in the winter time, and studies show that. So I think here for Colorado we have a different standard than we have elsewhere in the nation. Because of all the sunlight we get here, I think we have a lower threshold for having too much exposure.
Hi, my name is Jean Miller. I'm with the Bilingual Connection, and my question is regarding the fact that tanning beds have been around for, I think, a long time. Are there any studies now that represent any signs of or results of skin cancer from teenagers starting tanning earlier on?
Mr. Levy.
Yeah, I think the consensus on that is probably that sunburn incidence at an early age is a risk factor later on. We don't know that for certain, but it appears to be that way. And again, we believe we're part of the solution and not part of the problem in that we are more effectively helping people to avoid sunburn, particularly in Colorado, where you have a recipe of very intense sunlight outdoors many times of the year, and the intensity of the sun changes by altitude.
You've got melanonin pills now. Melanin pills, I guess, spray tans, you've got airbrushing and all these other options. Why not do that?
Well, the airbrushing is increasing in popularity. However, it does not provide natural photo protection against a sunburn. A tan is your body's natural protection against sunburn, and in combination with the proper use of sunscreens is more effective at preventing sunburn outdoors than mere use of sunscreens alone.
We are going to have to drop it right here into your laps again, and we'll see what happens. And I really appreciate you both coming down here. It's an interesting topic, whether you're talking about tanning or tattooing or piercing, particularly when it comes to young people, our teenagers, and watching out for them. So I thank you both for coming by.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and we will be back. And wow, look who's headed up into the studio.